What makes a man truly courageous? Is it fearlessness, or the ability to act in spite of fear? Machiavelli, the man history called ruthless, knew the answer. He studied kings, generals, and leaders who risked everything, and from their victories and their downfalls, he uncovered principles of courage that still hold power today. In this video, we'll cover 10 Machiavellian principles of courage, from embracing discomfort to flipping fear into power to rehearsing death itself. Each principle will sharpen you. Each one will strip away weakness, and by the end, you won't just understand courage. You'll know exactly how to build it, weaponize it, and walk through life with fearless presence. So the question is, are you ready to step into discomfort, face fear directly, and live boldly like a prince? 1. Seek voluntary discomfort. Ask yourself, when was the last time you chose discomfort on purpose? Most people spend their lives chasing comfort, the soft bed, the easy routine, the safe silence. But comfort is a slow poison. It weakens your will, dulls your instincts, and leaves you unprepared for the storms of life. Machiavelli knew this. He watched rulers rise in fire and fall in luxury. The moment a prince surrounded himself with silk and gold, his enemies sharpened their knives. Because when you grow soft, someone harder will replace you. So what would Machiavelli do? He would seek voluntary discomfort, not recklessly, but strategically. He would train his body and mind to face struggle before it arrived. Because the man who is comfortable with discomfort is untouchable. In daily life, that means take the cold shower. Shock your system so you don't freeze when the real chill comes. Speak up in the meeting when silence feels safer, because a voice untested in small rooms will fail in the throne room. Try the new skill in public, risk embarrassment, because humiliation today is armor tomorrow. Every small discomfort is a rehearsal for war. You are teaching your nervous system to stay steady under pressure. Machiavelli would say, better to bleed in training than to be crushed in war. So the question is, are you practicing discomfort now, or waiting for life to throw you into it unprepared?
Hey guys, we're Wisdom, based in Abu Dhabi. We use AI tools to make these concepts come to life, but it's our amazing team who goes deep, breaking down powerful philosophical ideas and showing how they really apply in everyday life. We hope you enjoyed today's content.
2. Name the fear out loud. Think about it. How many times has fear controlled you, not because it was strong, but because it was silent? You feel it in your chest before the meeting. You feel it when you hesitate to send the email. But you never name it, and so it rules you like a hidden tyrant. Machiavelli understood this. He warned rulers that unseen enemies are the most dangerous. A conspiracy whispered in secret is harder to fight than an army marching in the open. Fear works the same way. It attacks from the shadows. So what would Machiavelli do? He would drag fear into the light. He would name it out loud, because once spoken, it becomes smaller, manageable. Like a general mapping enemy positions on the battlefield. The moment you identify fear, you gain power over it. In daily life, this means saying, I am afraid of failing this presentation. I am afraid of asking for that promotion. I am afraid of rejection. Do you see the difference? It's no longer a silent fog choking you. It's an opponent you can study, plan for, and strike. Machiavelli would remind you, a danger seen is half conquered. So the question is, what fear in your life do you need to say out loud today? 3. Anchor to a mission, not yourself. Why do people freeze when it matters most? Because they're thinking about themselves. What if I fail? What if they laugh? What if I look weak? That mindset breeds hesitation, and hesitation is death. Machiavelli knew this well. A ruler obsessed with protecting his image loses the courage to act. But the prince who ties his actions to a mission, greater than pride, greater than vanity, becomes unstoppable. So what would Machiavelli do? He would anchor to the mission, not the self. A soldier doesn't march into battle for applause. He fights for the banner above him, for the cause that outlives him. That is what makes him fearless. In your own life, this means shifting the focus. Don't give the presentation for your reputation. Give it because the team depends on it. Don't chase the promotion just for status. Pursue it because your family's future rides on it. Don't build the business to look important. Build it because the mission demands it. When your mission is bigger than your ego, fear evaporates because it's no longer about you. Machiavelli would say, a prince must always appear devoted to a higher cause, for men will die for a mission, but never for your pride. So ask yourself, what mission in your life is so powerful that it silences your fear? 4. Run micro-experiments in risk. Most people sit around waiting for their moment of glory. They tell themselves, when the big opportunity comes, I'll be ready. But here's the truth. You won't. If you've never taken risks in small battles, you will collapse in the big war. Machiavelli knew this. He wrote that fortune favors those who train themselves daily in boldness. He admired leaders who tested their power in small strikes, so when the throne was at stake, their courage was already muscle memory. So what would Machiavelli do? He would run micro-experiments in risk. He wouldn't gamble recklessly. He'd practice courage in controlled doses, because courage is not theory. Courage is habit. In your life, this means send the bold email that makes your hands shake. Ask the difficult question when everyone else is silent. Challenge the opinion in the group, even if it makes you stand alone. Each act is small, but together they forge a man who cannot be intimidated when the real test comes. Machiavelli would remind you, fortune belongs to those who rehearse boldness daily. So let me ask you, what small risk can you take today to prepare for tomorrow's battle? 5. Use the fear flip. Most people see fear and retreat. They think, if I'm nervous, it must be dangerous. If I'm scared, I should stay away. But fear is not a warning to run. Fear is a signal pointing you exactly where you must go. Machiavelli understood this. He wrote that rulers who avoided threats shrank their power, but those who faced threats directly expanded their dominion. Fear was not an enemy. It was intelligence, a message, a guide. So what would Machiavelli do? He would flip fear into strategy. If his hands shook before a speech, he would know the stage is the battlefield that must be conquered. If his stomach tightened before a negotiation, he would recognize that the table is exactly where his influence must grow. In your life, this means nervous about public speaking. That's where your voice needs to be heard. Afraid of starting the project. That's the very ground where your growth lies. Fear is the compass, pointing you straight to the fight that will transform you. Machiavelli would remind you, where danger is greatest, there lies opportunity. So ask yourself, what fear in your life is really a signal, showing you where your next victory waits? 6. Visualize the worst case, then accept it. Fear thrives on uncertainty. What if I fail? What if I lose? What if everything collapses? These questions paralyze most people because they never look them in the eye. But Machiavelli would. He knew rulers must plan for disaster before it strikes. The Stoics called it premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Picture the worst. Imagine betrayal. Imagine exile. Imagine death. And then accept it. So what would Machiavelli do? He would strip fear of its greatest weapon, surprise. By rehearsing the worst in his mind, he robbed it of power, and once he made peace with the loss, no threat could move him. In your life, this means imagine the presentation failing and see yourself surviving it. Imagine losing the deal and see yourself rebuilding. Imagine rejection and realize you will still stand. When you accept the worst, you are free. Free to act boldly, free to take risks, free to move without chains. Machiavelli would remind you, a prince who prepares for evils before they come fears nothing when they arrive. So ask yourself, what worst case do you need to accept today so you can finally move with courage? 7. Borrow courage until it becomes yours. No man is born fearless. Even kings have moments of doubt. But the wise don't wait for courage to appear. They borrow it until it lives inside them. Machiavelli understood this well. He advised rulers to model themselves on the great men of history: Alexander, Caesar, Borgia. Their actions were templates. By asking, what would they do here, a leader could act decisively, even if fear whispered otherwise. So what would Machiavelli do? He would step into the mask of courage. When hesitation gripped him, he would act as though he were someone braver, and with repetition, the mask would fuse with the face. Pretending would become being. In your life, this means, ask yourself, what would Mandela do in this moment? What would my bravest friend say here? How would a leader I admire act now? Then copy it. Don't wait until you feel ready. Act as if. Because courage isn't a gift, it's a performance that becomes real through practice. Machiavelli would remind you, men are quick to imitate greatness, and through imitation they become it. So ask yourself, whose courage will you borrow today until your own becomes unshakable? 8. Use controlled anger. Most people let fear freeze them. They overthink, they hesitate, they stall until the moment is gone. But Machiavelli knew, paralysis is death. A prince cannot afford stillness when enemies are moving. So what would Machiavelli do? He would transform fear into fury. He would take the same trembling energy that weakens most men and convert it into decisive force, because anger, when controlled, becomes fuel. Think about it. What weakness disgusts you so much you refuse to bow to it? What injustice makes you burn until action feels inevitable? That is the spark. That is the fire that transforms fear into courage. In daily life, this could mean, instead of fearing rejection, get angry at the thought of never trying. Instead of fearing failure, get furious at the idea of living small. Instead of fearing what people think, get indignant that their judgment could ever dictate your destiny. Machiavelli would remind you, a ruler must never be ruled by fear, but he may rule through controlled fury. So the question is, what disgust in your life can you weaponize into courage? 9. Detach from outcome. Most people hesitate because they are slaves to results. What if I fail? What if I lose? What if I look foolish? Their worth is chained to victory or defeat, and so they act timidly or not at all. Machiavelli saw this weakness in rulers. Those obsessed with reputation became paralyzed. They wanted to win, but feared losing more. The prince who tied his identity to fortune was doomed the moment fortune turned. So what would Machiavelli do? He would detach from outcome. He would show up with full force, regardless of whether victory or failure followed. Because courage is not about guarantee, it's about execution. In your life, this means deliver the presentation without obsessing over applause. Launch the project without needing instant success. Speak your truth without demanding approval. When you stop measuring your worth by results, you unlock true boldness. You act without hesitation. You play the game to its edge because you have nothing to lose. Machiavelli would remind you, fortune controls outcomes, but a man controls his actions. And action, not fortune, defines him. So ask yourself, what would you do today if the outcome no longer mattered? 10. Rehearse. Death. Live boldly. Most men live small because they secretly believe they will live forever. They waste years hesitating, playing safe, clinging to comfort, as if time will wait for them, but time does not wait. Death is certain, and fear of it keeps most men enslaved. Machiavelli knew this truth. He watched rulers rise and fall, fortunes built and destroyed, lives cut short in an instant. Death was not a possibility. It was the only certainty. The wise prince did not fear it. He rehearsed it, accepted it, and from that acceptance drew his boldness. So what would Machiavelli do? He would meditate daily. One day I will vanish. One day all of this will be gone. Not to sink into gloom, but to sharpen his presence. Because the man who accepts death wastes no moment. He takes risks others avoid. He speaks when others stay silent. He acts when others wait. In your life, this means remember that the meeting you fear, the rejection you avoid, the risk you delay, none of it matters in the grave. Remember that every excuse to live small dissolves the moment you face mortality. And remember, boldness is the only rational response to life's brevity. Machiavelli would remind you, all men must die, but not all men truly live. So ask yourself, if today were your last, would you still hide, or would you act? You've just heard 10 Machiavellian principles of courage. Not theories, not pretty quotes, but battle-tested strategies that rulers, soldiers, and leaders have used to face fear and win. Now the choice is yours. You can close this video and slip back into comfort, or you can act. Take one principle today, apply it ruthlessly, and watch how quickly fear loses its grip. Machiavelli would remind you, fortune favors the bold, but destroys the timid. So step forward, choose discomfort, name your fear, anchor to a mission bigger than yourself, and live as if time is already running out. Because in the end, only one question matters. Will you rule your fear, or will your fear rule you?
Thanks for spending time with us. If this sparked a new way of thinking, hit like and subscribe to keep the ideas flowing. And don't forget, check the description for the links to the resources and the original books we used today. We'll see you in the next one.